Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Namaste Wellness Show, where we talk about all things holistic health for the mind, body, and spirit, for people and pets, with a touch of cultural soul. I'm Laura, your host. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Today we're going to be talking about pet care, and I have a very special guest, Miss Pat McKay. She has 43 years experience in animal nutrition and also 39 years experience in classical homeopathy. And even though she works with all animals, we're going to be focusing on cats and dogs today in terms of homeopathy and nutrition. So welcome to my podcast, Pat McKay.
Yes, hi. Hello, everybody. Yeah,
Hello.
I'm very happy to be here.
And I'm very happy to have you on. It's taken a while to get you on, but I'm really glad to have you here because you have so much important information to share with us about nutrition for cats and dogs. And we'll save the other animals for another show if you'll come back and be on the podcast again. But first, I want to just ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to work with animals.
Well, first of all, I'm 90 years old. I was born during the Depression. And to make it very brief, my father lost all of his money within 5 years of the time I was born. So we went to this absolutely gorgeous home in Tyrol Hills, a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota, to Park Rapids, Minnesota, in a one-room cabin. It had one electric light, and you had to pump your water, and of course an outhouse. But as a 5-year-old, I thought I was camping. And the reason all this is important is because we ate whatever my father caught fishing or shot while hunting. And our dogs, we had 2 hunting dogs at that time, Labradors, and they ate every part of the animal that we didn't eat. And it was all raw. So I have always fed raw. I didn't know there was another way. So then we skipped 40, 50 years. And I'm training one of my own Dobermans to be a protection dog because I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm living alone. My husband died in Korea. So I have 3 children that I'm raising myself. And I just at times felt I needed protection. So, and at that time, I was a federal court reporter on one of those stenograph machines. And I mentioned that to my trainer that I just didn't want to be in court anymore. It's all you hear are people's problems. And I had done it for 5 years, and I said, enough is enough. And he said, well, I don't know why you don't get involved in telling people how to feed their animals. And I said, oh, okay, that's a good idea. And this was 1981, and there were only 3 health food stores for people, in the entire greater LA.
Wow.
So I thought, there's no point in trying to put up a sign that says nutrition for animals. People wouldn't even understand it. So I bought a grooming place and called it the Shaggy Dog and the Calico Cat.
Oh,
And when
I like that.
put animals in, and went to take them home, I gave them what was called a health sheet. And I said, what you feed your animals is extremely important. And then they would look around my grooming salon and say, well, but you don't have any food here. And I said, yes, I do. It's in that freezer over there. People had never, ever thought of feeding their animals raw meat at that time.
Wow.
And that's how it started in 1981.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty amazing. And you kind of already said why you were feeding animals raw, is because that's what you learned. You didn't know there was any other way to feed animals. So tell us, what are the benefits of feeding your animal raw, other than, well, you tell us from your perspective.
Well, I based my whole program on what canines and felines eat in the wild. I mean, Mother Nature has made it very clear to us what dogs and cats ought to be eating. The entire gastrointestinal system of a cat or a dog is no different from any of the cats or dogs or canines and felines that are in the wild. I mean, they are what they are.
So it's just natural. Yeah, the digestion, everything is the nutrients are there, and they're not cooked out of the food. They're not dried into the kibble and stuff and all that. Correct?
Let me interrupt.
Basic common
Dry
sense.
food for a cat is absolutely horrible. Cats by nature do not drink water. They get all their fluids because they eat only fresh kill in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
A dog will eat some roadkill or anything that's available, not cats. Cats eat fresh kill. They kill it, they eat it immediately. And therefore, the prey animal that they eat is all fresh, full of blood, full of every possible liquid that the body needs. And so that's what we have to come as close to that domestically as we can. Now, I'm not for people going out and buying mice and small birds and small baby chicks and so on. So we have to do what we can do domestically. So we take beef, chicken, pork, lamb, turkey, venison, anything that you can buy in your supermarket, and that's the raw meat that you're going to feed.
Okay.
Now, when a cat or dog eats the whole animal, the whole lizard, the whole mouse, the whole bird, they're also eating all the pre-digested vegetation that's in that prey.
Right.
So we need to cover that to some small extent. So the best way we can do that is to feed cooked vegetables. Now, you can't, they can't eat it raw because what they eat in the wild is already pre-digested for them.
Gotcha.
So the best we can do is to cook the vegetables till they're like a mush, and then mix that with the raw meat, and that's their food. Now, the only other way you can do it is the owner, eats the vegetables, regurgitates them, and mix them with the raw meat. I haven't had one owner take me up on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. I do feed raw, and I usually do cook the vegetables. But I just learned something today. I always wondered why. I told you about the recipe I was using, and I always wonder why. Well, why are you, if you're feeding raw meat, do you have to cook the vegetables? So I just learned why. Because in the wild, the vegetables or the grass or whatever the animal that they're ingesting has already eaten it, and it's been pre-digested. So thank you. I just learned something today with that. Now you do have, go ahead.
So to make it very easy, it's 90% raw meat and 10% cooked vegetables. And the vegetables have to be certain vegetables, and I list them in my free ebooks. And everything is free on my website because I want everybody feeding their dogs and cats the way they're supposed to. So I'm not charging for it. I just go to my website and click on free ebooks, and it breaks down everything for you. And the vegetables are broccoli, cauliflower, celery, green beans, and any kind of squash. Those are the basic ones. Don't feed carrots or peas or all the common ones that people eat, because those are too hard for cats and dogs to digest.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Now, cats and dogs do have like a slightly different dietary needs. For example, don't cats require even more protein than dogs do, correct? Dogs can eat more vegetables and fruits and whereas
but you have to remember that in the wild, they eat exactly the same thing. Cats and dogs eat exactly the same. Felines and canines in the wild eat exactly the same foods.
Oh,
so I thought this idea that yes, a dog can eat a bit more of a variety, but why do that? Just feed your cats and dogs exactly the same food.
Well, you also, I want to add too that. Go ahead. I just wanted to add, with the raw meat and the vegetables, you also add supplements as well. And tell us about the supplementation and why you add supplements.
Well, here is the thing. Because you cannot feed dead bone. In other words, when a dog or cat eats the fresh kill, they eat everything, the bones, the hair, the only thing they don't digest are the teeth and nails of the prey, that they catch.
Mm.
Well, by the time you buy chicken or beef or any of the meats in the supermarket, rigor mortis set in on those animals that we eat within hours. So now all those bones are dead bones.
Mm.
And can they have a bone to chew on? Yes, if it's too big for them to swallow, and if it's a large bone so that they can't break off little pieces. But they are not to eat raw bones. I know there are food suggestions that tell people to go ahead and feed bone that they buy in the supermarket. No, do not do that, because that bone can't be digested, and then it'll just cause a blockage someplace in the
even the raw
gastrointestinal system.
even the raw
So
bones. I thought that they could eat raw bones,
it's
not
raw,
the.
but it's dead. Rigor mortis sets in on a cow or a pig or a chicken within hours after their death.
Okay.
And there's no way you can buy it. You would have to buy live animals, live chicks, live mice, live lizards. And if you want to do that, that's fine. I went to a cat show one time, and I was telling everybody what to feed their cats. And a woman came up to me and she said, "I even do you one better." I said, "Oh, please tell me." She has a room in her house, and she does buy small baby chicks and mice. And she puts them in this room, and then she lets her cats go in there and kill them and eat them.
Wow.
And she's right. She does better than I do. But I don't have very many people who have ever been interested in doing that. I mean, you've got this bloody mess in a room in your house. So anyway, this is why I formulated these two supplements. One is the Bio 8. And the reason for the figure 8 is because it has 8 ingredients. And this is what you add to your cat and dog's food, because they are water soluble. So they work directly with the food, and they're used up every day. The CLO3, and that stands for cod liver oil, is the oil supplement, and that covers the oil-soluble vitamins A and D, and a little bit of E. And E can go either way, but vitamins, A and D are definitely oil soluble. Now, the difference is the Bio 8 gets eaten with the food and used up right away. The CLO3 goes to the liver of the animal, and then the liver dispenses the oil-soluble vitamins when and as they are needed. So that's given at a different time of day. It makes it easier on the pancreas if you give water soluble with the food and oil soluble in what I call my butter sandwich. Now, on my free ebooks, it talks about giving the butter sandwich as a treat later in the day. You're going to feed your adult cat and dog once a day. That's it. They're going to eat just once. In the wild, felines and canines eat maybe 2 or 3 times a week. They don't eat every day. But if I tried to convince people that was okay, they'd go, oh no, I can't do that. I got to feed my animal. Because most people want to feed their animals 2 and 3 times a day. No, and this is based on their health. And one of the things you mentioned is what I call my snake and goat story.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me talk about that.
Okay.
If you have a pet snake, that snake's going to eat once a month, not every day. You'll kill it. If you feed that snake every day, you'll kill your snake. If you're raising goats, which are herbivores, they're going to eat constantly. They're grazing on grass or weeds or whatever constantly. So that's the huge difference between a carnivore and an herbivore. Horses, cows, they just graze constantly because they're herbivores. All carnivores eat, like I say, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Because I know people won't put up with that, I tell them to feed once a day, and the best time, according to the circadian body clock, is to feed between 7 and 9 in the morning. So sometime during that time, give them their food. Now, if because of your work and you have to leave, if you have to feed at 5 in the morning, okay, that's what you got to do. But the best time to feed is between 7 and 9 a.m. Now, of course, puppies and kittens are totally different. They're going to eat anywhere from 4 or 5 times a day to 2 times a day for the first year of their life. Okay. So that'll be different.
Okay.
And then if you have a sick animal and they're having problems with their digestion, then the second meal of the day should be between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. And absolutely no food after 3 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Cats and dogs need about 18 hours at least to complete the whole process of digestion and elimination. Okay?
Okay. Wow. Well, let me ask you this. What about the naysayers who, including many veterinarians that say feeding raw is dangerous? What do you say to?
I tell you, veterinarians are the worst. Will you tell me how any person can go to school for up to 8 years and not know that a carnivore eats raw? What do they think? They think somebody's cooking the meat for the canines and felines in the wild? I mean, they're nuts.
Well, I think the industry, I think, tried to come up with a way to, I guess, feel that to make it easier for the pet parent that has to work, or maybe the pet parent that maybe doesn't have enough money to feed raw. But when I hear you say you were a widow with 3 children and you were still feeding your animals raw, I mean, how did you do it? Because some people say, oh, it's too expensive. I don't find, with the prices now, I think it's cheaper for me to feed raw, considering how high prepared or canned and kibble is on the market today. It's very expensive. So I feel that it's less expensive for me to feed raw. But there are some people who say, I don't have the time to do it, or I don't have the money to do it. What do you say to them? And especially, like, you were a single parent with 3 children. So how did you do it? You weren't, I mean, were you rich, or
you go to the vet one time and no way are you going to get out of there for less than a few $100s. And many times it can be high as thousands of dollars.
Well,
now, instead of going to the vet, you put that money into food, and then you won't need to go to the vet. And let me tell you a very extreme case that happened this week. I'm working with a little 8-pound dog.
The Yorkie, you said a Yorkie? The Yorkie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't want to say too much about the dog because I don't want people to think I talk about their animals. I leave everything anonymous, okay?
Of course.
And
yeah.
The woman owner was gone, and she left her Yorkie with her adult son.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yorkie was having some problems. I'll grant you, it was a little frightening. And so she emails me, tells me what's going on. And then she said, oh, I just heard from my son. He put the dog in the car. He's on the way to the veterinarian. I said, okay, well, let's see what the veterinarian says.
Mm-hmm.
So her son calls her, and the vet actually admits he does not know what's wrong with this dog. But he said he wants to keep the dog overnight, observe her, and then decide what drugs to give. And he gave the son a figure to tell his mother what the cost would be. Anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 for that one night.
Wow.
And so she emails me right away and says, what do I do? I said, you tell your son, grab a hold of that dog and get out of there.
Mm.
So the son gets home, and we're talking around 11 o'clock at night by this time. Mm. And I said, give the little dog my raw meat broth. And here again, go on my free ebooks. It tells you how to do the raw meat broth. You just mix some raw meat, put it in a food processor, add water, and now you got raw meat broth. And very often dogs will just lick that up in a minute. And if they don't, then you make it thin enough so that you can get it through a syringe. But in this case, I told the mother what to tell her son, which remedy to give, and then after 10, 15 minutes, let the remedy work for a short time, and then start giving the dog the raw meat broth. The dog drank it up just wonderfully, all on her own. And the next morning, she was fine. Okay, so now this was $30 as opposed to $3,000 if she'd have stayed with the vet. So do you see what I mean? You gotta use its nutrition and homeopathy. And homeopathy is practically nothing compared in price to the veterinarian and the drugs. Now, not everybody does homeopathy as economically as I do. I'm not out to be a millionaire. I just want to help dogs and cats live good lives and happy lives. And so, yeah. So and here again, all this is on the website, but I charge $250 for the first month of care, not the first day, the first month. Wow. And after the first month, then a person pays me $30 every time their animal needs a remedy.
Wow.
Now that's how simple it can be.
That's a good, can I interject here just for a second? I just want to read the table of contents of your ebook. It's called Animal Homeopathy, and you can go to Pat's website, www.patmckay.com. That's PATMCKAY, www.patmckay.com. And I'm just looking at the table of contents. You have free evaluation of your animal, Pat McKay nutrition program, recipes, feeding raw. You mentioned the snake and the goat story. Is your animal ill? Symptoms of SORA, bones and treats and toys. And then she talks about her CLO, cod liver oil 3, and her butter sandwich, combination remedies, constipation, giving homeopathic remedies, calcium, cats, coronavirus, dehydration, loss of appetite, dental care for you and your animal, deworming, diarrhea and stool softeners, or soft stools, animal poison, eggs and milk. I mean, it just goes on and on. Flea killers. I wanted you to say a little bit, if you can, about putting these flea medications on your animals and stuff like that, because my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, usually an animal will not contract fleas unless their immune system is compromised. And, I'm very careful about, generally don't put any, I've never had problems with fleas with any of my animals, and I don't put, the stuff that you get in the store and spray stuff on them. I don't do that. So can you say a little bit about that? Because we are in flea season in some of the, here.
A little bit about what?
Putting flea collars on your cats and dogs. And
just by feeding the proper food, you are building their immune system. Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's where no vaccines come in.
Okay.
You got to get people have to get my book, Natural Immunity. Vaccines do serious damage. Mm-hmm. So they actually hurt the immune system rather than protect it.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then if you want to know a little bit about homeopathy, you can get a book by Timothy Dooley, and he puts it into layperson's language so that you can understand it. And both of these books are available at the same link as when you order the supplements. Okay. And
and where do you order the supplements from? Where can you order the supplements?
The company is called Essentials for All.
Essentials.
And on my homepage, it's easier to see in print. But what it is E4A supplements plural.com. And that'll take you to the supplements and the books. Now, for 30 years, I started the company. I formulated the supplements. I wrote the book, Natural Immunity. And then in 2003, I closed all my nutrition centers that I had in Greater LA. And for those of you who are listening that know about Los Angeles, my main office was in Pasadena. One of my first openings of another facility was on Wilshire and Highland, and then the third one was Woodland Hills in the Valley. And I closed all those in 2003. And I won't go through the next 6 people who I tried to get involved in keeping up my mail order so that people could continue to use the supplements. But finally, in 2009, I took it over again myself. And then 3 years ago, a man I had saved his dog 20 years before, he emailed me and said, or called me, I think, and said, can my girlfriend and I come up there to Walker Lake and have you show us exactly how to make the food, explain the supplements? I said, absolutely. So they came here, and this is through about 4 years ago. And then 3 years ago, they agreed to buy my company. So now they own it. And since then, they actually got married. So sometimes you'll see her name is Sherry Slater, and that's her maiden name. And now she is Sherry Jackson. So Sherry and Harold own the Essentials for All business. And that's who you're going to order from. Now, if you're in Greater LA, they actually prepare the food and deliver it. And they set up, because Greater LA is so huge, they set up programs or schedules for every week or 2 weeks or whatever in certain areas. So either email Sherry or call her, and that information is on my homepage, and talk to her directly if you're in the greater LA area, because you can buy the food already made and it'll be delivered to you. I mean, talk about wonderful, because you could be 100 miles away from Sherry's facility and still be in LA.
Right. But you can learn, but you can see the recipes on your website as well. So if you can't, if you're not in the local area, you can see how. I mean, I've looked at the. Go ahead.
And if you're not in LA, you're right. Just prepare it yourself. What could be easier than cutting up a little bit of meat and cooking a little bit of vegetables? And one of the suggestions, especially for cats and small dogs, is cook up a bunch of vegetables, put them in an ice cube tray, and freeze them. Then you don't have to try to make a little bit of vegetables every day in case you don't eat broccoli or cauliflower or the ones that they're supposed to have. Now, if you make those for yourself, then you can add them to the raw meat. Now, yes, you can use ground meat, but here's the deal. In the wild, cats and dogs either swallow the prey animal solid, a whole, like if they catch a lizard, they'll swallow it. If they catch a small critter, like a small mouse or something, they swallow the whole animal. If it's too large to swallow, then they'll tear off a chunk. But no dog or cat or canine or feline in the wild eats ground. Nobody's out there grinding it.
Right.
It's all eaten in chunks. So that's why the other reason I prefer chunks is because when you see the whole piece of meat, you know that it's a chicken thigh, or you know that it's
that's true too.
The butt end of a pork, or in other words, you know what you're getting. When you go to your supermarket, unless you know the butcher personally and can ask him or her, you may be feeding mixed proteins. They might put more in that hamburger than just beef. So you have to know what they do.
Gotcha.
And
Pat, I don't want to cut you off, but we're actually at time, and there's so much information, like I said, and I would love to see if maybe we can have you on again for a part 2, if you'd be willing to do that. We can talk about that, but we have to call time now. I just want to tell everybody, thank you all for being here. Please go to her website, www.patmckay.com. You can see all this information and more. And please join us next Wednesday for another episode or podcast of Namaste Wellness Show. Until then, stay safe, stay well. Namaste.